to understand much better if we speak in English, or if there is someone that speaks English only and there is someone that speaks Italian, you can do the same and vice versa. So I'm just a few words. I'm Marco Bindi. I'm here wearing two hats because I'm within the project. I'm the scientific responsible of the research unit of the University of Florence within the Clim4Vitis. But at the same time, I'm here also as vice rector of the University of Florence. So this welcome speech is more with the head of the vice rector. And then, of course, I will be here for all the afternoon as chairman of this session of the workshop. Tomorrow we'll have another chairman, Marco Moriondo, that is here, will be the chairman. There is a small change in the program because tomorrow you will see my name opening and closing, but this will be done by Marco Moriondo. So, okay, so I introduced myself, as I said, and so I would like just to welcome you to Florence. And it's really a pleasure for me to welcome you here at the University of Florence. For who is not familiar with the University of Florence, here we are in one of the buildings of the University of Florence. We are in the center of Florence. This was a monastery, and the monastery then was closed by Napoleone. And after that, this monastery was in a hospital, and starting from the 60s, this was the building of the Department of Literature and Philosophy, and it is still here the department. So this is one of the room, one of the space of this department. We have a very dense program today and tomorrow, so I don't want to bore you with a long speech. I want just to focus on two key points that I consider fundamental for understanding why the relationship between viticulture and climate are so important. The first one is the role of viticulture in the Mediterranean countries. We know very well, and in a few minutes I give you some numbers that are real clear for understanding the role of viticulture in the Mediterranean countries, in the Mediterranean agriculture. And the other key point is the role of climate change on viticulture, because we know that climate change has a strong effect on agriculture in general, but when we speak on perennial crop or semi-perennial crop, like, for example, grapevine in this case, the impact of climate change could be stronger compared to annual crops, cereals, and other crops. So these are the two main key points on which I want to focus my short speech. So if we speak about the role of it's too high. The role of viticulture in Europe, and especially in the Mediterranean area, in terms of the surface area, 4 Mediterranean countries represent the 40% of the world vineyard. So this number, it's really clear how large is the cultivation of grapevine in the Mediterranean countries. More or less the same is the production. The 37% of the total world grape is produced in Europe. This is not just in the Mediterranean area, but in general in Europe. And also in terms of consumption, and also in terms of the export. In terms of the consumption, there is a clear, stable increase in wine consumption, in volume and in value. And this is particularly evident for bottled and for sparkling wine. And also in terms of the export, there is an evident and constant increase of the export from all the Mediterranean countries to the main consumer countries, as UK, the US, and China. So from this number is very clear how important is viticulture for the farm incoming. We know that one of the main problems of the farms is the incoming, and probably viticulture represents one of the main incoming for farmers, especially, of course, in the Mediterranean countries. The other key point is, and this is the aim of this project, the aims of this workshop, and the aim of this event in this week, is the impact of climate change on grapevine and on viticulture in general. So if we look at viticulture, viticulture is facing with the two climate change issues. The first one is in terms of increasing environmental sustainability, because we know that agriculture in general is affected by climate change, but is also one of the responsible of climate change in terms of emission and in terms of pollution and other things like this. So one of the very important point is to produce, but to produce in a more sustainable way. So in order to reduce the greenhouse gases emission, in order to reduce soil erosion, and to reduce cultivation inputs. So this is one of the key point that viticulture has to face with the climate change issue. The other problem, as I said before, is that viticulture, agriculture in general and viticulture in particular, are affected by climate change, and the viticulture has to adapt in some way to climate change. So, and here I'm speaking about suitable cultivation area, risk of climate extremes, yield reduction, change in grape and vine quality. These are some of the main impacts of climate change on viticulture. So this project, the Clim4Vitis project, is mainly focused on impact and adaptation, but as I just mentioned, it is necessary to take into account also the role of viticulture on the mitigation of climate change, because this is another very important issue. Very often we focus mainly on one of the two aspects, on adaptation or mitigation. What I suggest and what I think is that is very important to combine both the strategies. On one hand, to take into account that is necessary to adapt, especially if you want to do something in a short time, but at the same time it is also to think about in a long time, and in this case to think about the mitigation or role of viticulture. So in this context and within the Clim4Vitis project, this workshop wants to address some of the key points that I have just mentioned, with a series of keynote speech this afternoon and tomorrow morning, as you can see from the program. But this is also a week that is dedicated to viticulture. So at first we have this workshop, then we have the project meeting, and then also we have a final day with a staff exchange day in which people involved in this issue in the University of Florence try to demonstrate how they are working on viticulture, and the same for the other partners involved in the project. So concluding this speech, I would like to thank you for attending the workshop, the colleagues who worked on the Clim4Vitis project, the invited speakers. I would like to thank the invited speakers that are here today and the invited speaker that will be here tomorrow. Of course, I would like to thank all the staff, the local staff, all the people that work for organizing this week, because as I said, it's not just an event, but it's a series of events. So thank you again, and good work for the rest of this workshop and for the rest of the week events. So thank again to everybody, and good work.